it's Sheona from Satisfaction. Welcome back to the vlog. I am very excited today. I'm excited for a few different reasons. I'm excited because it is the first video that I have done on our channel for so long. I actually can't remember how long. So I'm really excited to be back. So thank you for your patience to old faces and hello to any new faces. I have done recorded a separate kind of chatty fabric haul update video on some of the things that have happened with the shop and the studio over the last few months, but I will put that up separately because today, the other reason I'm excited is because I'm going to be talking to you all about overlockers today, which is something that I get asked about all the time, and I'm also excited because I've got a new tripod, which means I can film kind of hands-free and from different angles and stuff. So I thought I would do a little mini 3-part series on the overlocker, and this is going to be the first one. So today's video is about what an overlocker, or sometimes known as a serger, actually is, what it does, and why you might want to get one, because those are the kind of questions I get asked very regularly. So for those of you that don't know, we do run a sewing studio, a sewing school in Wokingham in Berkshire, which is the southeast of England, for anyone that is local or local-ish. We do a whole one-day class called Overlocker 101, which is basically getting to grips with the overlocker from scratch, threading it, learning what to do with it, and we make a t-shirt on it. But it's a whole one-day class, and you can bring your own model of machine, so you don't have to use one of ours. If you want to use one of ours because you don't yet have one and you haven't yet decided, you can, and we use the Janome 6234 XL, which is the one I've got here. I'm obviously not in the studio today. I am filming this at home because there's classes going on in the studio. But yeah, I'll pop all the details for that down below so that if you are local enough to come visit us to do a class, you can do that. But if not, I'm going to hopefully be able to give you some info and some tips and tricks over the next few vlogs. I was going to say episodes, a few episodes of the vlogs to teach you all about overlockers. So what is an overlocker, or sometimes known as a serger? So it is a separate machine to your sewing machine. So you might be able to see that's the end of my sewing machine over there. And then it's also not to be confused with a cover stitch machine, which is this machine over here. So an overlocker is a machine that has 4 cones of thread. I'm trying to work the angles right. It has 4 cones of thread, which operate independently from each other, and it has a blade tucked in here, and it also has 2 needles. Now you don't have to use all the cones of thread, you don't have to use both needles, you can use 2 and 3 thread options, but I'm just going to cover the kind of general purposes for it. And the most common way you'll see an overlocker used is to finish your seams. So I'm going to hold this up to the camera and hopefully it will focus in so you can see. This is the outside of a seam that's been finished with the overlocker. So if you look at your ready-to-wear shop bought clothes, they will often have been finished with an overlocker, normally an industrial overlocker. But the great thing is we can get some really brilliant domestic machines now, of which this is a great example. And it stops your clothes from fraying, stops your seams from fraying apart, makes them really robust and secure. And if you are sewing with stretchy fabrics, it means that you can sew your seams completely on the overlocker without having to use a sewing machine. So this fabric is a crepe, and this you would normally sew your main seam lines with your sewing machine and then finish them on the overlocker. And you can either do that before you sew them up on the sewing machine and then press your seams open, or you can lock your edges together like I've done here and press them to one side. Why would you want an overlocker? I think there are a couple of different reasons that are most predominant in home sewing. So the first one is, as you can see, this edge is very, very neat now. It looks very professional. The machine is threaded up in different colours because I want to explain to you what they do in a minute. But normally you would have your thread coordinating with your fabric. It gives you a really neat finish because it chops the edge. It wraps the edge as well so that there's no fraying. It means that your garments will last longer. They are more robust when you're wearing them. You can put them through the wash more, much more similar in terms of wear and tear to what you would have when you bought ready to wear. In fact, let's be honest, probably more robust because you'll take more time and care than we see in a lot of kind of fast fashion garments nowadays. So it's a really great way to make sure that your garments are finished securely and last a little bit longer, and it also looks really nice. So if you're getting a bit kind of fed up with your zigzagging or your overcasting stitch on your sewing machine, of which there is absolutely nothing wrong with, and they are perfectly usable finishes. However, if you feel like you've kind of exhausted them and you want a little bit more of a professional finish, then the Overlocker is probably going to be your friend. The second reason, as I mentioned earlier, is because if you are sewing with knit fabric, so jersey, stretchy jersey fabrics, you don't need to sew your garments on your sewing machine. The Overlocker stitch has a nice amount of stretch in it, so you can sew directly onto your Overlocker, which means you don't have to worry about stitching and then finishing, which makes it a lot quicker. And again, it gives you that really nice kind of ready to wear finish. Those are the main reasons you tend to find that people want an Overlocker. There are a couple of there's actually quite a lot of different hem finishes that you can do on the Overlocker as well. So you can blind hem on it. Looks different to a blind hem that you get on a sewing machine, but it's a great finish for really fine, lightweight fabrics like organzas and things like that. Also popular for non-garments, so things like napkins, very fine rolled edges that are completely wrapped so they stop the fabric from fraying. You can also do blind hems on the Overlocker. Again, they look slightly different to a blind hem that you can do on the sewing machine, so it gives you another finishing option. And you can also do faux flat lock seams, which are something, a proper flat lock seam you can only get on a cover stitch, which again is a completely different machine. But if you have an Overlocker, you can get a similar effect. So there's loads of different things you can do on it, and it just kind of, if you are sewing a lot and you're finding that you want to kind of take your finishing up to a next level and the things that you might be able to do, an Overlocker is really good for that. You can also do things like gathering and adding elastics and things with your Overlocker as well. So it is a machine that you can kind of grow with as you want to learn more techniques. So what does the Overlocker actually do? Well, this is where our 4 kind of cones of thread, I'll pop a little video up here so you can see it all up close without me moving the camera around and making you all feel seasick. But we've got our 4 cones of thread, and they all relate to these 4 different tension dials here. And as I mentioned earlier, they can all work independently of each other. We have 2 what we call looper threads, so an upper looper thread and a lower looper thread. So if I just show you this here, which I'm hoping the camera will focus in on, we have our blue thread on the edge of our fabric here, which has wrapped, can you see? This is wrapped like a loop all down the edge of our fabric. That is our upper looper thread, and what that's done is that has created a loop around the top side of our fabric. If I turn this over on the back, can you see we've now got a black thread which has looped all down here as well. And this is our lower looper thread. So those loopers work in tandem with each other to wrap the edge of your fabric. The upper looper thread wraps the top edge and the lower looper thread wraps the bottom edge, and then they meet on this edge here. You then have 2 needle threads, which again run parallel to each other. So you can see we've got the white needle thread here, which is our right hand needle, and then you've got our red thread running parallel to it, which is our left hand needle. So if I open this up, you can see, you can't see your stitches. This is a crepe, so it's nice and wibbly wobbly, but you can't see your stitches really, and those are your needle stitches that would be visible from this side. And then, as I say, your loopers are all tucked in, finishing your seam off. There is a blade tucked in here, which, can you see? If I bring the camera here, there is a blade tucked in here, just here. You see this? This slightly scary looking hook, but don't worry, it's not scary. If I turn the presser wheel, can you see my needles are going to come up and down? They're creating my line of parallel stitching. My loopers are down here, they're working to wrap the edge of the fabric, and then at the same time my blade here is chopping the edge of my fabric so that I get a nice clean neat edge, and I can choose how wide I want that seam allowance to be and how much I want it to chop off. Let me show you what I mean. So this is obviously an edge that I've done earlier. I'm going to pop, this machine comes with a little handy thread catcher, so all of our thread will drop in here and our offcuts will drop in here. So I've got this little seam guide up here. I'm going to line it up with the 5/8 line and just stitch. Can you see as I go, it's cutting off the surplus that I don't want. There we go. So it's cut off the surplus that I don't want, and it's left me with a lovely neat edge. Now, if I was doing this on a single layer of fabric, I could do this without trimming anything off. So I can disengage the blade if I want, and I can just finish all of the edges so that then when I sew it together on the sewing machine, I can press my seams open and each seam will be individually finished. If I want to, I can do it like I've just done it here. So I could sew it on the sewing machine first and then lock my edges together. And if I was sewing with stretch, I wouldn't need to worry about doing this on the sewing machine at all. So should you get an overlocker? Well, that's kind of a question that's up to you. It's one that I get asked quite a lot. I think it will depend on how much you believe you'll use it. So if you make a lot of your own clothes or clothes for other people or children, etc., then you may well find you reach a point where you want that more kind of professional finish and you want your seams to be a little bit more robust and last longer, in which case I'd definitely go for it. If you make for other people, so if you maybe have like a small home craft making business, things like that, you'll probably want a professional finish. If you enjoy learning new tools and you just want to add a new piece of kit to your arsenal, then I would definitely recommend it, because there's so many different things you can do with the Overlocker, and once you've got to grips with it, they are brilliant machines. And I'm yet to meet someone who has bought one, learned how to use it and doesn't love it. I think the challenge comes that people buy them, don't necessarily know what to do with them, and then leave them in a box. So the record that I've had in a class, and bearing in mind I've been teaching how to use your Overlocker for 6 years now, and I've seen, as I mentioned, hundreds of different types of makes and models, but the record is someone that's had it, was either bought it or given it, and had it in a box for 12 years before coming along to a class. So if you've got one in a box somewhere, find a class, or if you haven't got a class near you, if you can't come and see us, find some YouTube videos, learn how to thread it, and then see how you feel, you know, getting comfortable using it. If you don't sew very much at all, if you have no intention of sewing with stretchy fabrics, and you're not really worried about how you finish your seams, then you probably don't really need one. They're not a must-have. A domestic sewing machine that does a good straight stitch, a good zigzag stitch, and a buttonhole is all you really need to do basic dressmaking. But yeah, if you want to take it up to a different level and you sew a lot of stretch fabrics, etc., then I would recommend investing in an Overlocker. How to choose the right Overlocker will again be dependent on a couple of different factors. So predominantly your budget. I would suggest you buy the best Overlocker that you can afford. You don't have to spend a huge amount of money though to get a good Overlocker. What I would suggest that you look for, and the best way to look for them, is to go to a specific sewing machine Overlocker retailer, because then you can try them. The best thing that you can do if you're going to treat yourself to an overlocker is actually try it before you buy it, because it's not just how quiet it is and how nice it feels to use, although that's something that you will want to keep an eye out for. Some overlockers can be very, very loud. And if you're, for example, predominantly sewing in the evening when you've got children around, you may find that that will not work for you. So definitely, if you can listen to it and feel it, that will give you a good steer. But the trickiest part with an overlocker to get to grips with is the threading, and predominantly how to thread the lower looper. So if you are looking to invest in an overlocker, I would do your research into how easy it is to thread and how easy the lower looper is to access. If you go to a specific sewing machine dealer, they will be able to show you this. If you're buying online, you might want to watch some videos of that specific model to see how easy that lower looper is to access. And that doesn't always correlate directly to price. So you can have some very expensive machines that have quite tricky to reach lower loopers, and you end up feeling like you're playing a little game of operation. And then you can have more affordable machines that have a very easy to access lower looper, but maybe are a bit noisier and a little bit clunkier when you're working with them. So it's kind of down to personal choice what is most important to you. And then obviously some machines have both. They're very quiet, they purr, and they have a very easy lower looper. You can go all out now as well. There are air thread machines, so quite a few. I know Janome do them, Babylock do them. Lots of brands now do the air thread machines, so you don't have to manually thread them up. You can kind of line them up and a jet of air will thread them through for you. But they are obviously on the much pricier end of the market. So just think about your budget, think about what you're going to be using it for, and think about how simple it is to thread, because if you can get to grips with threading it, you're much more likely to use it more regularly. But yeah, so that hopefully has given you just a very brief introduction to what an overlocker is, why you might want one, what you can do with it. Again, we haven't touched on if you're going to start sewing things like leggings, swimwear, underwear, all of those kind of things. Having an overlocker is a brilliant way to finish them. So it's just that kind of next step in your sewing. If you've watched the vlog for a while, you'll know I absolutely love sewing with jersey and stretch fabrics. I love whipping up a quick t-shirt or you know, a long sleeve stretch top, sweatshirts, things like that, and you can do those so quickly on the overlocker and get a really brilliant finish. So as you can probably tell, I love overlockers, and with all the different makes and models that I've taught people how to use over the years, I've yet to meet one where I haven't thought they were kind of worthwhile. But yeah, hopefully that has helped. It's given you a little bit of inspiration as to whether you do want to take a look at overlockers. If you would like to come along and join us in the studio for a class, then you are very welcome to do so, and we'd love to see you, and I'll pop the link down below. Otherwise, hopefully we can help you here with more videos, tips, tricks and tutorials. I'm going to record a separate part 2 to this on tips and tricks for the overlocker, and I'm also going to do a video on how to thread this specific model. So if you do have this one, take a look at our other videos, and that will hopefully help you. Otherwise, I hope you all have a really, really good week, and I will see you again soon. Take care, guys. Bye.